One of the things I tell people is, you can't get through airport security with a bottle of water anymore because of all the restrictions. Well, bring an empty bottle, or I often have a half-liter thermos. Well, after you pass through security, depending on which country, in the United States, we have drinking fountains in the airports. You just fill up your bottle with water, and there you have your water, because they might charge you for the water on the airplane, or they might not give it to you until an hour into the flight, and you're already with a parched mouth for a whole hour and you're thirsty. Or bring a sweater with you. Or if you think you have a lot of baggage, wear the heavy stuff. I had to do that once. I looked like an idiot. I was flying to Argentina. Here it was the winter and there it was the summer. And I got out of the airplane with this wool coat. And my friend who was meeting me at the airport thought I was insane, that I did not know that it was like the heat of the summer. But the reason I did it was because I didn't want to pay the baggage fees.
Right.
Put in my coat.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, I went with Susanna, who's written Travel Happy, Budget Low, and also Language is Music, 70 fun and easy tips to learn foreign languages. Susanna, so now we've traveled to our particular location. I would love for you to talk about two favorite topics of mine, hostels and couch surfing, especially as a woman. Yeah. Can you talk about, I think, first of all, couch surfing and so the process and your particular experiences couch surfing?
Sure. So I joined couch surfing almost 2 years ago. I was traveling in China, and I had heard about it from my cousin who had joined, and then I read about it in a magazine in Brazil, and I just thought it would be a great way to meet local people or foreigners who were living where I was traveling. So the whole idea of couch surfing is that travelers can stay with local people, and local people can learn about other people's cultures through the people that they host at their homes. And it's free. So people set up a profile of who they are, where they've been, what their interests are, how many people they can host in their house, what restrictions they have. And then people who, are traveling also have their profiles, also with their interests, what they do. And as a traveler, if you're looking for a place to stay, let's say you're going to Wichita in Kansas, well, you look at who is a couch surfer host in Wichita, and you see who has interests that are similar to yours. So I try to find people who are close to my age, who have similar interests, either in music or where they've traveled to, or whatever it happens to be, because I'm staying at their home, so I want to be able to have a conversation with them.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's very awkward if you're staying at someone's home and you have nothing in common. And, what are you going to talk about? You're at their house. As a woman, one of the things I am very aware of on couchsurfing is that I look for people who've hosted both men and women. Mm-hmm. So there's some women who won't host men, and they make that very obvious on their profile. Mm-hmm. But there are also some men who will say, I only want to host women. And for me, that's a red flag.
Yes.
Yeah, like, forget you. I'm going to go find someone else.
That just sounds a little weird. Like, you're a guy, you only want to host women. That sounds, a little sketchy.
Exactly. So if that's the situation, I just recommend to women, if they're wary of staying with a guy, then look for female hosts. Mm-hmm. When I was traveling in Thailand, I found very few female hosts. I think it's also cultural that probably not as many women live on their own there.
That's probably right.
Yeah. So sometimes you can stay with a family. Sometimes there are married couples with kids who host as well, and that may feel more comfortable for a woman. Mm-hmm. I've had really good experiences on couchsurfing. I've also used couchsurfing when traveling just to meet people.
Right.
Like, to have them show me around, just to chat, not necessarily to stay at their homes.
Right. And for those who don't know, it's just couchsurfing.net, and you can look at the website there, create a profile. And again, everything is free, but I think that the real point of couchsurfing is more of a cultural exchange, and I think you would back that up, Susanna, correct?
Yes, it's very much a cultural exchange, and the idea is that you learn about the culture from the local person who maybe takes you to local markets or restaurants or festivals or whatever, and you get to talk to their friends and learn about their life and hear about whatever political events are going on in their country. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, in terms of another way that you can stay in a new place cheaply, the concept of hostels, I think, has been what's the word I'm looking for? Has been smeared, or people just have a bad thinking about hostels, and they think it's only for kids. They think it's only for single folks. They think it's only for a certain type of traveler, which, I can personally say for myself that it is not the case. But I'd like to talk to you about your personal experiences with hostels in terms of how much you paid and just your overall feeling about it as a single female again.
I've had great experiences with hostels. I think the worst hostel experience I actually had was in my own country. It was in New York City, and I think I paid like $30 for some private hostel. And I could barely sleep. It was super loud. But I've had great experiences. Now, there are things with hostels, like I definitely recommend bringing earplugs. Sometimes they sell them at the reception, and it's worth carrying a good stack of earplugs because I don't snore, and I'm a heavy sleeper, but believe me, if someone is snoring in the dorm, they're going to annoy me. I'm not going to sleep well. So that's one of the things is that if you're a light sleeper, being in the dorm situation is really difficult.
Right.
Now, some hostels have private rooms as well, or if you're traveling with some friends, you might be able to get a room for like 2, 3, or 4 people, and that's better than being in a big dorm. But when you're in big cities like Rome or Milan, those places, they just have big dorm rooms, and sometimes it's mixed men and women. I haven't had any safety issues in terms of, feeling as a woman that I was in danger. But there are issues to think about. Sometimes people have early trains to catch, so they're going to start waking up at 5 or 6 in the morning, packing all their stuff and making a lot of noise. So if you're going to be one of those people, try to pack up as much as you can the night before so you're not going to wake everybody up and annoy people. And try to be as quiet as possible. Now, there are some hostels that are only for women.
Right.
And in some countries, there are actually like churches or, convents that have just for women. So that's another option as well.
I've heard that too. I know for me, and you can add on to this, some of the things I look for when I'm looking at a hostel, and you can look up hostels like websites like hostelworld.com and Hostelbook. Just search for hostels, and you'll find a great directory that you can book online. But the 3 things that I look for in a hostel are location, and especially for me, making sure that I can get directions from the airport or however I'm getting to the hostel from my mode of transportation. The other thing is I look at the comments for cleanliness. Because some hostels are really horrible, and some hostels are comparable with like boutique hotels in terms of the way they keep things together. And the other thing would be a laundry and free Wi-Fi in terms of being able to connect to the internet. So everyone has their own set of criteria, and you can follow that online. But in terms of the savings, you had mentioned $30 a day in New York City. The most I spent was $30 a day in Tokyo, and people really need to understand that the significant savings of hostels and how you can really get around and travel, even if you're not traveling long term. Just $30 versus $200 a night is significant.
It's huge. It's huge. The other thing is that many hostels have kitchen facilities, so you can cook, and so they have pots and pans, and you just bring your food. Now, I've heard that sometimes people have their food stolen from the refrigerator. I've never brought that much food, so if you're going to cook gourmet, it's possible that your food might be stolen. So bring simple stuff, and they usually have like the basics of like oil and sugar and butter, so people can cook. Another thing with hostels is that sometimes they're like private hostels as well that are smaller, and they might be more welcoming. And you're totally right, it's not just youth hostels. I mean, I've gone to hostels in the United States. There's some places in the United States where you can only stay in a hostel because there are no other accommodations unless you want to go camping, especially in big like national parks or some around the coast in California. And there are a lot of adults, there are a lot of retired people who use it to travel. So I think they even took the name youth off of the International Hostel Association.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that they're trying to market to more than just kids who are just out of college or high school students. And I know personally when I stayed in hostels, I saw whole families. I saw mother, father, toddler, and grandmother all staying in the hostel